Good evening, everyone. I'm Rashmi from greytHR and today's moderator of the session. So I welcome you all today to our 52nd webinar, Parichay. And the topic for today is compensation strategy for a future-ready workforce, design and compliance. Well, before I dive into the topic, let's do a little housekeeping on how this session goes. So the session is divided into two parts, wherein in the first part, we will have the discussion with our experts for today, which will then be followed by audience Q&A. So audience Q&A is where I can say time is all yours. You can put across your questions in the Q&A option of the Zoom control panel, and we will be more than happy to take them up. Also, session is currently being recorded. So if you happen to miss out on any part of our today's session, do not worry at all. We will be sharing the recorded session with all of you once we are done with the session. All right. So without any further delay, let's start this session. So as you may know, in today's rapidly changing business landscape, it's more important than ever for companies to have a compensation strategy that is both effective and compliant with relevant laws and regulations. This is especially true as we look towards the future and consider the evolving needs of the workforce. So in the next 1 hour, we are going to discuss this in length with our experts, Ms. Suchandra Dutta, Senior Manager, India HR Lead, Alif Semiconductor, and Mr. Vineet Mangal, Managing Partner, Beewise Consulting, and understand in detail the key elements of a compensation strategy for a future-ready workforce, including how to design a strategy that aligns with our company's business goals, how to ensure compliance with relevant laws and regulations, and how to balance the need for competitive compensation with the need to manage costs. Well, on this note, let me tell you a little more about our today's expert speakers. To start with, Ms. Suchandra Dutta. She is currently working as Senior Manager, India HR Lead, Alif Semiconductor, and she's an alumnus of Haas School of Business, University of Berkeley, with nearly 15 years of strategy, consulting, program management, and practitioner experience in the area of human resources. As a senior HR leader, she has hands-on experience of leading different HR functions like HR business partner, compensation and benefits, competency development, HR tech, recruitment and policies with leading global organizations such as AstraZeneca, Novozymes, Alcatel-Lucent. She is a dynamic leader capable of analyzing alternatives and identifying tough choices while communicating the same. She is experienced in working with global cross-functional teams and implementing global projects in HR. So, Ms. Suchandra, we are delighted to have you here in the session. Once again, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much, Rashmi. And I'm also delighted to be back onto the Parichay session once again. And a very warm welcome to all the audience over here. Looking forward to an engaging session.
Sure. Thanks, Suchandra. Moving on to our next speaker for today's expert session, Mr. Vineet Mangal. So, Mr. Vineet Mangal is Managing Partner and Beewise Consulting, is currently working there. And his last assignment in the corporate world was in the Middle East, where he was Chief Human Resources Officer for around 6 years with the largest private university, having 1,000 employees from 60 different nationalities. Prior to shifting to the Middle East, he was the founding member of Tata Sky in India, where he was instrumental in setting up HR from the scratch for them. As a certified coach, ACC-ICF, Vineet also practices in the areas of career coaching, performance coaching, and executive coaching for leadership profiles across various countries. And currently, Vineet is handling multiple assignments in the areas of talent development and assessment, including capacity and capability building, organization design, performance and rewards consulting, and setting up of HR processes. So, Mr. Vineet, it's a pleasure to have you here in the session. Once again, welcome to the session.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you for giving such a elaborative information about me. And I'm really delighted to be part of this session and love to share and hear it from also the other panelists, also from the people, those who are participating in this seminar. Because learning is both sides. It's not that only we are going to speak, we are going to take also a lot of learning from what kind of a questions which are going to come. So quite excited to take it forward from here.
Same here. Thank you so much, Mr. Vineet. Yeah. So, dear participants, on this note, we will be starting off with our first round, that is discussion with our expert speakers today. So, well, to start with, Ms. Suchandra, I have a question for you here. Can you please explain how can an organization design a compensation strategy that aligns with its overall business goals?
Well, thanks, Lakshmi. Thanks for the question. I think the question that you asked is like the starting point of any compensation journey for any organization or any business or any HR leader as well. So when you're trying to design a compensation strategy, we were talking about business goals. And then the first thing that you need to, or anybody who is designing the compensation strategy, needs to understand what is your business strategy is all about, right? And it depends on what kind of a business you are doing. So start off by getting a deep understanding of what the organization business strategy will be. You evaluate what is the mission and vision of the organization, what is their core values, what are the short-term, long-term goals, what are the key factors which is going to drive the company success, whether are you looking at a market positioning, are you a sales organization, are you a growth organization, are you a product company, and what kind of competitive advantage that the organization has. The reason why you have to understand the business strategy is because that is where is the starting point. The kind of, the rest of the components will fall into place after that. Then when you are doing, because compensation is all about people and the job, you start off with doing a job analysis, like what kind of roles are you going to hire for? What kind of roles this organization needs to succeed, right? You do a comprehensive job analysis to understand the various different roles of the organization. You will have to break down the essence of each and every job role into minute components. Sometimes when you are doing that, it is very easy also to assign the values or the pricing factor to each and every skill and role, which makes it, if you do it elaborately in the beginning, it makes it much more easier to develop your compensation strategy when you're at the fag end of it. Then also understand you establish a very clear compensation philosophy, right? What are you trying to aim at? What is it that the philosophy is going to support in terms of organization goals? For example, are you focusing at an innovation? Are you focusing at attracting top talent? Or are you focusing at emphasizing on the competitive pay or growth? If you're a sales organization, are you trying to maximize your performance-based incentives or sales incentives? So determine what the underlying philosophy it is, and it is going to be directly again linked with your business goals. Next step you have to look at is when you're doing the strategy is market data, right? At the end of the day, you just cannot say, hey, I'm going to hire a fresher at 20 lakhs, right? What is the basis for it? Why are you kind of deciding on that? And how your other roles are mapping to it. So do a market benchmark of all the roles that you are going to hire. Because I have been part of both startup and the setup, the established ecosystem. Established ecosystems, we go with the generic market data, benchmark data from Aon, Hewitt, or Tower, Watsons, or Mercer, anywhere to understand what my competitive salaries in the markets are. So market data will give you an understanding of what the competition is doing, how the market is operating, what kind of different compensation levels, like when you are hiring from the market, what is the salaries that you will be hiring at, right? You will get an understanding and you will be able to ensure a competitiveness for all the work that you are doing. Okay. Then think about how you are going to create your performance and reward. So you have to link after that the performance and the rewards. So that will be again a part of it where you are creating a performance system which aligns with your both individual and your team performance and the business goals. You are going to define your what will be the KPIs. You will have to establish a clear metric process, performance evaluation process to employee contributions, tie all your matrices and incentives to the achievement of those specific goals and all the milestones. One thing that we need to consider as a part of the strategy is to consider total reward. Most of the time, we just leave it at deriving only the comp and the benefits. We don't look at the other non-monetary elements when you are defining a compensation strategy. Today, if you look at it, it is not only about the cash component that you are giving, but as an example I will give is if you're looking at attracting top talent in the industry, right? What makes a employee choose a company? It is not only the cash or the salary that you're offering, it is the whole plethora of things. So try and build a complete total rewards philosophy and a statement of what you are going to offer to a candidate, to your both internal and external candidates. Look at the perks that you are giving, like are you providing a good work-life balance? Are you providing remote opportunities? Are you providing learning and development opportunities? Do you have a solid recognition program? What is the ability of the individual to do a lot more personal development as a part of the organization? So when you are doing this, it will be a much more holistic approach, and it will also improve the employee engagement and satisfaction as well. I think the most important aspect of any strategy that you build in compensation is how effectively you are going to communicate it first, and then engage with your audience, right? Which is your employees. Now you have built a communication strategy, you have built a communication and benefits packages, compensation and benefits package and given. But if the employees, your audience is not able to value it or understand it, the whole strategy that you have built around the purpose and effectiveness will not be there. So ensure that your strategy is transparently communicated in terms like, for example, if you are a sales organization and you are doing a pay factor wherein you are creating a lower cash and higher sales benefits or performance, your sales incentive program, why it is being done, what is it the people need to achieve in terms of performance, which again relates back to your performance of the how you are setting up your whole performance program to see what is your target, how you will achieve it, and what is the incentive that you can earn from it. So that's transparency, which needs to be clearly mentioned and called out, right? And then also you need to periodically understand whether it is effective or not, which means you keep on engaging with your audience, with your customers, which is your employees, to see are they happy about it, do they understand it, are they getting the required benefit of it. So you feel like we have created an awesome benefits program. I have got so many things, like I have given say tuition fees for children, I have given your paid vacations, I have given them learning opportunities. But if those benefits are not being utilized or encashed upon by the employees, then again your whole purpose of doing the compensation strategy and implementing it will fall flat. So ensure that you have a constant engagement to understand how many people, how many employees are actually actively involved in that. Are they happy about it? Are they taking advantage of it? And is it benefiting, finally, impacting your employee experience, their success? And if you are a company who drives ENPS, whether your ENPS factor is going up or not.
Sure, Suchandra. Thanks for elaborating on that. So, Mr. Vineet, on this note, can you please help us understand what are the key factors to consider while designing a compensation strategy for a future-ready workforce?
Correct. So I think I'll just continue from where what Suchandra just mentioned about it, picking a leaf from there. So, of course, the one thing about whatever compensation strategy we should decide, the purpose is very important. For any organization to have a focus on what is the core purpose why they are doing it. So suppose they wanted to do it to keep a competitive edge in terms of a cost or to have a high-end technology innovation every time. So the compensation philosophy will be very different. So instead of saying a strategy, I normally try to say it's a compensation philosophy which will get governed into a compensation strategy. And as we all know that there cannot be any standard broad brushing of the compensation strategy because different strokes for different folks has to be there. Organizations' life cycle also decide which strategy they have to adopt. And so is the market forces and condition in which they are operating. But having said that, still there are a couple of components which we have to keep it in mind as HR professional when we are designing the strategy. And I'm assuming that a lot of people from our webinar today will be interested with the responsibility by their company. They will be leading this compensation function. And they would like to know about the components which we should include into it. So I think the first component is that very critical for deciding a compensation strategy is that what is your capacity to pay? Now, most of the time what happens is it's very easy to create a very lofty kind of a statements, throwing all the money all over the place, but they are not sustainable. So you have to look at it, how deep is your pocket, how much you can sustain. Are you backing on some investor money? Are you generating cash? If something goes wrong, are you going to continue with those benefits? That is very important. And trust me, it's not about what you give to employee, but what you take back from them that creates more dissatisfaction. So rather than saying that we will give you a XYG kind of a things as a benefit, there will be only delta happiness with that. But the moment you're going to withdraw that, this is going to create a more gossip around it that organization is not able to sustain the policy and they're not able to do it. Second important component for me, if I look at from the strategy point of view, whenever I do it for my clients also, is that once you know what is your philosophy and what is your sustainability or paying kind of a thing, it also depends upon the kind of market forces which you are behaving. Now, most of the companies take it wrong. So what they do is normally they try to benchmark themselves with the industry in which they are operating or the country in which they are operating. But mind you, today the world has changed. Today, you are not going to limit yourself. Let's say you are working as an Indian company. You're not going to limit yourself to India because there are thousands of folks doing the same job from your office, which they can give it to the service to somebody based out of Canada. So they have to look at it from where they can make money. With all the remote working in place and all the freelancing working is in place. So you cannot limit yourself to one particular location. On the similar line, you cannot also limit yourself to your industry only. So gone are the days when we used to say, okay, this is an FMCG company, go and benchmark with FMCG. No. Today, if you have a digital marketing guy working in an FMCG sector, he or she can be competing with any other industry. This could be an HR consulting company. This could be even some IT company. So straight jacketing myself and saying that this is my industry, this is my location, and I will design the strategy according to that, it is going to flop like anything. Third important component is, again, as I said about it, that people look at very, very carefully what you offer it to them. Similarly, they are also very careful in knowing that how much there is a transparency in what you offer. So your strategy should not be hush-hush kind of a thing that you just keep it under the wrap. You are not sharing it with your employees on a timely manner or creating a very different kind of a unequal kind of a balance. Now, I'll touch over the period of this webinar on whether there should be a differential compensation or no, but here I'm not talking about a differential compensation. I'm talking about here is that whether you are getting the same equitable treatment to all or no. That is more important. And I think the last components, of course, there are many, but if I look at one more component, which is going to be very effective in terms of making your compensation strategy is that what are the future skills you require? Now, most of the companies get into a trap of just looking at their current role. So we have an accountant, we have a marketing manager, we have a IT engineer, and we benchmark it without realizing that the company vision is after 2 years to go digital. Now, if you have to go digital after 2 years, your skilling will start now. And you have to start grooming people on that kind of a talent today. For that talent to get groomed, you need to pay them according to what the market is paying. So these are the 4 or 5 components which are very important when we decide about a compensation strategy.
Absolutely, Mr. Vineet. I think this answer really helps. Thanks for sharing your insights on this. While moving on, Suchandra, while we talk about these strategies, or Mr. Vineet, like rightly mentioned, philosophies, can you please throw some light on how can an organization ensure that its compensation strategy is compliant with all relevant laws and regulations?
Okay. When we talk about compliance, I think that's a big thing, especially with India. We are bound by so many rules and laws and regulations that sometimes we being compensation specialists also, we lose track of it, what keeps the kind of changes which keeps on happening. So I'm just make it more global. Every country or every area or nation that you operate has their own laws and regulations, right? Whenever you are thinking about, you go to US, you have to think about the 401k and other regulations. You go to some other country, there are different kind of labor laws and all. So as and when you're deciding and you're defining a compensation strategy, you need to first of all know the laws of the land. You have to be very thorough about it, right? So stay updated on the relevant laws, the regulations, what are the industry standards related to compensation. So for example, if you're operating in India, we have to comply with certain set of laws, right? We need to understand what is your Shops and Establishment Act, what is my Minimum Wages Act, right? We need to go by wages, Code Act, Bonus Act, PF, ESI, Maternity Act, and everything. Okay, these are some of the basic things like anyone as a part of compensation and compliances we need to follow. Absolutely. What is important is having lot of companies do have a third-party partner, statutory partner, who helps them to drive and understand this, because it keeps on changing from a state to state. Today, I'm operating in Karnataka. My Shop and Establishment Act in Karnataka is different. Maharashtra is different. Delhi will be different. But I need to know, and if I'm operating in India across geographies, I need to understand maybe 23 states, Shops and Establishment Act, and how it affects my compensation strategy. My overall may not change. My tweaking of the comp in those specific states might change, right? In terms of how am I giving a statutory bonus, or how am I, creating maybe a leave policy also under it. How am I affecting some of the payments? All of this, kind of falls into this ambit. The second is have regular legal audits. If you are doing an audit, then you will understand whether your compensation practices that you are doing have any potential compliance issues. I will give you a simple example. In the last 1 year, I think I have got notice over here twice from the legal department for no fault of ours. We have been filing everything, but it keeps us on our toes, because we are like, we become extra vigilant that I am not missing out any compliances, right? I am filing everything correctly. So it helps us to do a audit without any help of any external person coming in, to just ensure that, hey, these are the things that I need to keep in mind. I will maybe have an external partner to do an audit for us, engage with professional or consultant. If you're a smaller organization, larger organizations by default will go with any of those, top 4 places, like you go to a PwC or anybody and all, and get your compliances done. Then understand and familiarize with if there is something like, pay equity laws and regulations are there. Today, even without that, we are talking about equity and compensation, right? So that we are bringing in as an internal compliance within the organization. So ensure that you are setting up policies and practices to comply with it. As Mr. Vineet was also saying, we have to look at equity more now, rather than what we are kind of, we have been doing on a traditional basis. Analyze your compensation data that you are having, like you have, right? To see that there are not much of disparities over there. Because what happens if you look at the trend also? Today, most of the people will say that when we are hiring from the market, and I have seen a lot of LinkedIn ads also, and somebody talking about it, that we are companies okay to give 30% from outside, but not okay to do an internalization, right? They will give only 10% on an internal people. But actually, that is not correct. People don't understand that when we are also hiring at 30% from outside, we are ensuring that there is a parity is being maintained internally. You just see the percentage high. You don't see what is my internal acceleration that I'm building when I'm hiring from external also. I'm hiring from a low cost to bringing them to a certain cost. I am not hiring at a higher cost and increase the compensation. So, but even if you're doing so, you need to be very particular about continuously analyzing your data and seeing if there are certain disparities, how you are going to minimize those disparities. We have seen it happen. Last year has been such a huge hiring and attrition. Companies have ended up doing double, triple of what their pockets are in trying to retain people and trying to hire. We have paid 200 times sometimes, right? So that creates a disparity of a data, but we need to ensure that we are able to bring it down to a certain way. And I think the most important part is to be compliant is documentation. Do you have a proper documentation method that you're following? Do you have a tick mark? Do you have a list of things that you need to check off on your item every month and after you have closed your payroll process, or after you have maybe given an offer to somebody, or after you have made any changes? Do you have proper documentation process and record keeping to demonstrate compliance with any of the legal requirements and provide evidences where it is needed of fair practices?
Absolutely. Sure, Mr. Chandra. That was very informative. Thank you so much. While we talk about the trends and data, Mr. Vineet, I would like to hear from you. According to you, what role does AI and data analytics play in creating a compensation strategy?
That's an interesting one. So in the day of Chat GPT, that question is very expected to be asked by someone. And by the way, let me ask the audience, they can reply. They have the option to put the message on the chat, right?
Yes, Vineet.
Okay, so let me ask the audience to put why, if they have used Chat GPT for looking for HR questioning or something like on a compensation. If they have used it, they should type why. If they have not used Chat GPT for getting some of the answer for their HR related stuff, just type no. Okay, let's see how many of them are doing it. So while they are going to reply to it, let me say it in a different way. See, we always say that compensation is a combination of math, science, and economics. And we all know economics, science, and math have one thing very common, which is data. So it gives a very clear indication that the HR professionals, those who are doing us compensation related things, they have to do a lot of data crunching all the time. Now, what is happening is that definitely the AI tools and the other tools which are available in the market today, they are really helpful, because what they do is they create a setup of stimulation. So you can do a lot of scenario planning. You can do a lot of data crunching of the past and try to work it out different kind of a scenarios which can build, what kind of my cost will be there. You can extrapolate that data and throw it out that if this is the scenario, what will be the cost? If we do this particular kind of combination, what will be the cost? And also the AI is also going to do a lot of your historical record of the data. So whenever you are making a decision, this will be a more data insight will be there when you is making this decision about the compensation or anything about related to salary and benefit. Plus, today you are going global. So it's not that the data is only available in one particular currency or one particular format. So now with the help of the AI, you can create a more baseline kind of a thing which can be used for the purpose of crunching the data from time to time and in a format in which you want. So I think that is going to be helpful. However, it will be very wrong on our side to just leave the this compensation data or this exercise only to AIs and the chatbots of the world. No, it will not be, because at the end of the day, the insight which human beings brings it is going to be very differentiated. Decision making can be supported with data, but it has to be supported with your intuition, with your emotion, with the way you are connecting with your employees. You understand what is it that they demand because you do the interactions. Chatbots are not going to do that interaction for you. So they will always be an aid. No need to fear about it, that the data crunching will be done and some number will be thrown and the hundreds of job of the CNP guys will be over just because the data is getting crunched. No, it is not. It is just giving you an extension to do more rigorous planning. It is giving you more information to do more kind of scenarios which are going to play out in the market. And then you course correct it from time to time. So it gives you more agility. If I have to put it in 2-3 words, I think the tool like AI's tools are going to give you more agility. You are not going to crunch data hours together and days together. I remember when I started my career, and it was in 90s, early 90s. So you can guess my age by now. I know no gift for guessing the age. And most of the participants may not probably have crossed that kind of experience age right now. So the example I want to give is that when I started my career, that point in time, computers were just introduced in the market. So yes, there were Excels, there were some other software related to it, but most of the things we have to do through system, through hand. Now, what was happening is that when our bosses used to tell us, okay, go and if we increase the salary by 5%, do the calculation. So we used to sweat out because we had to go and do manual, put some data onto this, then do it. And when we go back to the boss and he will say, okay, go back now and do it with 8%. We silently used to curse him that the third time you're going to ask us, we are going to just leave it like that. But today, even if you're just sitting on an Excel, you keep on changing the numbers and you see the results coming. So I think that is where we have progressed. But to expect that this will going to be a system on its own and end of everything will not be a right interpretation about the usage of the AI. That's what I wanted to say.
Sure, Mr. Vineet. Thank you for providing us such detailed and informative answer. And also from audience, we have got mixed responses. Some of them say, yes, they have used AI in data analytics and few of them have not used it. So yeah, I think that was a...
Yeah, so I think it is a mix. So if they are still not used it, definitely I'm sure after this they are going to use it and see that how much chat GPT or in fact, by the way, today I think something new has started by Google also.
Yes,
Google Brad has been started. So a lot of tools are coming like that. So my advice to all the participants is extensively use it, play with this and try to get what is available into it. These are the exercises. Don't start taking the extreme position, which we'll see on LinkedIn and other people are saying that chatbots, AIs are going to eat the job of the people. You will be unemployed, this and that. Nothing, don't worry about it. Nothing is going to get replaced. Use this data to enhance your knowledge and capability to do the reasoning.
Sure, Mr. Vineet. Thanks for sharing your valuable insights. Moving on to the next question, Suchandra, what are the most innovative types of compensation plans for a future-ready workforce that HR leaders should consider according to you?
Well, I think that's a very good question. And before I answer that, I think I would like to kind of, add on to what Mr. Vineet was talking about the ChatGPT and AI. I think I have been using it, and I have been part of, a forum wherein we are actually encouraging a lot of HR and other people also to use it, your regular mundane tasks, succinctly as trying to summarize a performance management feedback that you have got into something which is concrete. ChatGPTs and this kind of AI tools are absolutely wonder. The kind of way that it works, it reduces your work by, maybe I will say 75% sometimes. And it frees you up to do more strategic thinking. I think that's very important thing to note, that the work that we have been spending on Excel sheets, trying to formulate mails, formats, and everything can be now outsourced to ChatGPT if you know how to use it intelligently. I think that's most important. Okay, great. So now coming back to understanding what is the innovative compensation. So if you look at today's workforce, you spoke about future ready workforce, right? So I mean, today we have a mix of multiple generations, right? If you in today's workforce, we have from the Gen Zs to the millennials, right? And we have to cater to everyone. So the kind of compensation plans that you will be creating should be able to cater to all of this set of people. So we just cannot be more compensation focused that we used to be earlier, because today, if you look at the people, the millennials, they are used to getting, very highly personalized instant responses, personalized services, and everything is there on the tip of their hand. And the way that they look at their present and their future has also changed. So we need to be in sync with what is happening with our current workforce. So I would say that a lot of companies today are trying to actually understand, through the help of AI, to be very honest, with various different kind of tools that we have now in our portfolios, to understand what exactly does the employee want. So the plans are getting created by keeping in mind the employee experience that we want to create. So like, for example, if you're looking at a compensation plan, you are not only focusing on the cash, but you're also focusing on how they can utilize this cash in various different ways. So you are giving them a flexibility to keeping in, again, the constraints of what the law asks you to do, even the flexibility to design their own compensation plan. And that's where I think we give them the freedom to choose. Today we have the new tax regime, wherein, like, if you look at it, I have seen a lot of millennials opt for it because they don't want to kind of break their head into what kind of investments they would be doing to save taxes, and now they're okay with it, but they want that flexibility. Now, how we can add on to that and help them maximize their cash intake? One of the very interesting compensation trends that I have seen is a lot of companies who believe in the equity side providing, they are allowing employees to, when the division happens, what kind of increment they are going to take in cash, what is the portion of the increment they want it in the equity also. Because today everybody knows that if I'm having an equity based compensation, that is something which is going to give me returns multiple fold rather than a cash based compensation. Apart from that, a lot of compensation, innovative compensation plans is that people are looking at, or compensation specialists are looking at, is in building the additional benefits, like how you are looking at creating the work life balance and fun at the environment. We are back into our office spaces, so the need is also there to create those kind of experiences and ensuring that you give them that right mix of your organization comp and benefits. So I'm not only focusing on the compensation, but also on the benefits part of this also. So if you look at some of, I've been doing a quick research and a study on this. So if you look at some companies abroad, they have a lot of trends, like they give off for volunteering. A lot of companies, I think in Walmart also, in Walmart India also, they have started off. And recently Booking.com has set up their new centers in India, wherein they are giving something called a volunteering off. So you're encouraging people to pursue some of the things that they do as a part of the benefits, and they're giving them those volunteering offs and paid packages and everything. Then again, a variable plan. So I will just come back to some of the basic things. Let me talk about it. Interestingly, how do you design your variable plan? Okay, which can be bonuses, profit sharing, stock options, to maximize and help employees get the maximum return instead of just being more fixed. And one thing Mr. Vineet was talking about was the future skills. Add compensation plans in that, wherein you are able to do skill-based plans and reward employees for it. So if they are upskilling themselves for the future, you should be able to have a component which is catering to that need. So add it as a part of your innovative compensation plan, or or it can be in a bonus format so that they can receive it if they are acquiring those skill sets for the future. Something which will help the organization have them and retain them, and also aid in your compensation strategy.
Sure, Suchandra. That was very insightful. Thanks for sharing your expertise. Before we continue, dear participants, please start putting across your questions in the Q&A option of the Zoom control panel. We will take them up soon in few more minutes. All right. So while we continue our discussion, Mr. Vineet, can you please share your thoughts on how does a compensation strategy help the organizations in attracting and retaining the top talents?
See, the way we have to look at today is that the whole game is changing now. It is not a game of attracting and retaining talent only. It is a game of staying relevant in the market. So the whole concept, which earlier was that if you pay a good salary, you are going to attract and you are going to retain, that is definitely there. But the relevance of your organization, why today talk people about the Googles of the world or the other companies, as Suchandra also mentioned about Walmart and other companies, because it's not that they are just paying top dollar to everyone, but they are becoming more creative. They are getting more relevant to the people what is required. So I think the compensation strategy, whichever way the organization wanted to do it, they do not have any choice. So the point is that you are not doing any favor by creating a very attractive compensation strategy. It's a bare minimum requirement which has to be done. Second is, no matter whatever we say, compensation is number one, was the reason for people to work, and will remain one of the number one reasons for this to there. Of course, there are more components to it. People want definitely all the other Maslow's need hierarchy theory to be fulfilled. But fundamentally, the money makes the most of the people manage their families and their extended families, whatever they have. So the kind of things which should be done into this is, it's not about paying a top dollar. You have to be creative about it. You have to do something which is attractive to the people. And second important thing is that we also have to look at that the era is changing. How is the era changing? We are talking about, as she mentioned, Suchandra mentioned about the millennial and Gen Z. I'm sorry, I'm not very sure about the term with which bracket, who falls into it. But giving the example of it, today the workforce is very different. So if the kids, those who are coming and joining a job, for them, it is not about just making the money for their end survival. That their parents have already taken care of it, for most of them. So the parents have created so much of a kind of a money for them that at least they are able to maintain the Maslow's need hierarchy, the bottommost. So if you think that you are giving them in exchange for just for their survival, you are playing the wrong game. So you have to create something which is more comprehensive, more innovative, and more inclusivity has to be there. Second important thing is that, and we know that in the world of today, all the startup world catching up and the bugs of the people to become an entrepreneur by themselves, it is becoming a fad, and it's a trend today. So you have to start separating the money from a wealth. The problem is that most of the companies are trying to solve money problem through a compensation strategy. They tomorrow have to solve the problem of a wealth creation through a compensation strategy, because people wanted to have an equity into the organization. They are not looking for an incremental growth. They are looking for an exponential growth for what they're investing their time and skills into it. So for that, the wealth has to be created. The wealth will only get created when you build some innovative way of giving them the incentives or LTIPs or ESOPs or phantom equity, whatever we wanted to name it as. So that creativity has to be very important. Second important thing is that we are talking about people do not want to just follow the old philosophy of the way the taxes were paid or the way their retirals were planned. I think with the advancement of all the information available on the net today, people feel more comfortable doing their own tax and investment planning. So they are not very keen to say that you deduct and deposit my money into a provident fund, and that is the only retire I'm going to plan. They wanted to have their own SIPs of the world. They wanted to have their own new pension scheme of the world, but they wanted to keep the control with them and decide about it. So don't try to push it by saying that ये तो लेना ही पड़ेगा आपको तीन चार चीजें. Of course, if it is mandated by the law, you have to give it. But if it is not, give that flexibility and freedom to it. And not always think that your money has to be on the 90th percentile. It is not required. I can give an example of myself. I have spent good amount of years of my life with Tatas. Now, we all know Tatas are not the highest paymaster in India. They are never known to be highest paymaster. But the kind of the compensation philosophy they have, or the kind of assurance they give to the employee by way of the way they create the strategy, is giving them the comfort that even if you're not paying the $100, you are still getting something which is decent enough for you to survive into this market.
Sure, Mr. Vineet. Thank you for providing us such a clear and thorough response. So we have a few more questions. I'll come back to that. But for now, let's move towards the audience questions. As I can see, there are already a couple of them lined up here. So first question is from Swati. Hi, Swati. Swati's question is how a startup company should adopt engaging and effective compensation and benefits to avoid imbalance in remunerations. Any template or example for that? So Suchandra, would you like to take this up?
Yeah, actually, I was just going through that question of Swati's itself. So Swati, I think there is like not a template, and examples we can learn by seeing what has been happening in the startup ecosystem. I think the base thing that needs to be remembered when you are hiring, in a startup, when you're building up a startup is, again, what is the end purpose, right? You have to get your compensation philosophy correct first. What are you trying to achieve? And as Mr. Vineet had, mentioned that, are you backed by investors, or when are you going to generate your own funds? So you have to keep a balance of all of this. So to avoid your imbalance in remuneration, you have to set your philosophy very correct. What is it that you are going to drive at? What is the cash compensation are you willing to pay? Most of the startup organizations prefer to pay in equity because they are cash strapped, right? So they want to build that equity as a part of their composition that they are willing to give for the future, and the cash, and keep it, keep it very simple. Don't complicate compensation in a startup is what I will say. Keep it very cash. What is the cash? What is your equity? And what are the other legal requirements that needs to be given, and give it as a package along with other benefits that you are creating. Imbalance can be created when you start a massive hiring from the industry, right? You're trying to hire established players from the market into your startup. You will end up sometimes paying them at their cost, which will start creating your imbalance. So think of it how, if like your growth is happening, you are meeting your target, and your product or whatever service that you are giving is also going to be getting back into your, you are going to start a revenue model and generation and everything. How you can then offset it to the early people who have joined. We can always say that early people you have given heavy equity, hence they have it. But that is remember that is what they have chosen, and the price that they have taken, maybe a cut in the salary to join your organization at that point in time. So you cannot always say that because of that equity, I'm going to give you less cash and compensation in the future. It cannot happen. You need to ensure that as the organization is going, the cash part for them keeps on increasing, because equity is their faith that they have entrusted into the organization. Always remember this, because I have always seen this happen, that as the organization is going, we are hiring in new people with more cash, but we tend to ignore the people who have already been there. At some point, bring in this checks and balances in place, as I mentioned in my previous talk, that keep on understanding the difference in your compensation that is there. The data will keep on talking to you. You need to understand where I will fix it, how I will fix it, how I can, getting a budget, I can keep on improving it. So if you keep on doing this checks and corrections, the imbalance will reduce drastically. And at one time, you will not be sitting and wondering, can I give 100% budget I will get to, bring everybody at the same pay parities or not?
Sure, Suchandra. I hope that answers the question. Next question is from Muthu Shivan. Hi, the question is, what are the factors that have to be considered to ensure the compensation strategy and its components stay relevant and are also meeting to the requirements of new age workforce, and how often it has to be reviewed for better retention? So, Mr. Vineet, I think this is just the extension of what you just explained to us some time back. So, could you please elaborate on this?
So, I think first I wanted to say that it is not a question, it is a questions put together, multiple questions all put together. I really admire the way the participant wanted to know anything and everything about it, which is a good thing. But I'll just continue from where we just had this discussion around it. See, whatever strategy you wanted to do it, today it cannot be a casting on the stone. So you cannot just say that you have decided about it of doing, let's say the factor. So 1.5 years ago, the IT was in boom. A lot of people were doing moonlighting. Today, IT jobs are into a very different shape. So the factors that were relevant 1.5 years ago is not relevant today. So today you have to be more adaptable and flexible in looking and relooking all your data points and the factor which is impacting your business. Tomorrow, things will be different when the workforce which you have already got into the system are going to mature. Their ask will be different. Their expectations will be different. So suppose you are getting a young workforce today, and tomorrow they have their own families and the kids. Then as she mentioned, Suchandra, about it, that about the policies related to education and about giving them the benefits related to the families will become important. So adaptability is one. Second is also the way you cannot be just myopic, which I mentioned in the beginning itself, that I belong to this industry, this country, I will only focus looking around that. No, you have to keep yourself horizon open. And the trick I can say for this is that don't look at your industry, just look at it from where you are hiring and where you are losing people. That's it. If you are losing a talent to somebody based out of Canada, your trigger should go up that I also have to benchmark myself with a Canadian talent also. If you are working in an FMCG and losing the talent to, let's say, a logistics company, then your antenna should go up and say that, okay, this is also the place where I have to look in terms of benchmarking myself. Third is try to simplify the factors also is that you have created, and when I say you, I'm also included into this as a part of HR, is that we have created so complex structure of basic, miscellaneous, this, blah, blah, blah. Nobody is interested. Make it crisp. 4 components, 3 components, 5 components, that's it. Because if you are not able to communicate well, then you are getting it all wrong. And that brings it to me another factor which is important in compensation is a communication. Today, with the world has a salary calculators of the world and all your payscale.com, they all know what their worth is. You cannot hide it from them. You cannot keep it as a very trade secret of the company and saying that we have made a compensation policy, but nobody will ever come to know about it. They wanted to know. So communication is important. Another factor when you are doing it. Can you create something which you can communicate it in a well manner or no? So as Einstein has said, if you cannot explain it to a kid, then your fundamental knowledge of that subject is not there. So say is the case with the compensation policy. If you are not able to explain it to somebody who is going to join day after tomorrow, then your whole policy is playing a, second fiddle, I'll say. So this is the way I look at it.
Definitely, Vineet. It makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that with us. I hope that answers the question as well. So, dear participants, due to interest of time, I'll just be taking a couple of questions before we conclude the session. So, next question is from one of our attendees, and the question is: many companies have many staff compensation benefits with them for new hires, but most of the time it is not even communicated by HR to new hires. So, does HR need to be more effective in defining this to differentiate them from other companies? So, Suchandra, your take on this, please.
I think I spoke about the total rewards concept, right? That's your own personalized branding that you need to create. Everybody is doing a lot of things, but how are you putting it together into one pager to communicate to them? And maybe I think if you look at quite a lot of new companies today, we will see the attraction for the talent begins on the career webpage itself. What are they offering? What is it that they are differentiating? They highlight out things that they are doing uniquely and differently. So the starting page is there. You devise your strategy, you write down a total rewards page. What are you doing apart from compensation, right? So basically it comes from the benefit side that you are doing. As I mentioned, paid vacations, what kind of paid vacations you have. Or some of the companies today have given unlimited vacations. There is no cap to it, right? So those are kind of attractions that you are doing. Market it, put it on your career web page, branding, so that everybody is that communication part happening. Emphasize on what you're doing different, how you are different from the rest of the traditional organizations. What is it that you are bringing in as a value add to the employee? So the employee wants to know what is the value that is being added to me. I know that I'm joining this company for certain things, but what is the value the company is adding to me also in terms of the salaries, the benefits, the learning opportunities? If you have a program wherein the employee in a year's time can enroll and go for some maybe abroad studies, if you're giving discounted education loans or whatever is it that you might have thought about as a innovative compensation plan, communicate it to them, how they can achieve it. So those are the standard ways of doing it. Go ahead, create a brand page, go to your career page, talk about it to your new hires. Let the new hires, once they join it, talk about it in their videos. How do you market it? And that's how you spread the whole knowledge.
Sure, Suchandra. Thank you so much for all your tips. I'm sure that will be quite helpful. I'll just take up one last question for today. Mr. Vineet, please help us understand this. Amal would like to know from you. Are there any mandatory or industry standard regulations stipulating that basic salary must constitute at least 50% of the gross salary?
Okay, so let me first apologize because for last 6 years I was in the Middle East. So I may not be fully 100% knowing about the laws and the compliances kind of things. And now I'm into consulting. So I'm not on the other side of the table where the compliances have to be maintained. So it's more of the advisory role. So may not be able to answer it fully. But to the best of my knowledge, yes, this direct wage code which has been introduced, it has mandated a couple of things. The way the salary will be computed, the way what components will become a base salary for the purpose of computation is there. And then there are certain parameters applied to it. I don't think so this is governed by the industries as such. Even if it is, I'm not too sure about it, but I don't think so that it is governed by the industry to industry. But yes, there are categories which used to always be there, that there are skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled categories where the minimum wage criteria have been applied. And there are some industries, especially the plantation industry, rubber industries, these were the mining industry. These were the industry which were governed by the respective laws related to that. And there are certain provisions which make it mandatory. Better for the person who has asked the question is, there will be certain stuff available on the government's website with respect to the direct wage code. go through it, and I think that will be a more authentic information rather than me giving it, which may not be 100% authentic at this point in time.
Just let me add on to that. I mean, what Mr. Vineet said is perfect, absolutely correct. So there has been 4 new wage codes that has come out, and one part of it is the wage code bill of 2019, in which it is mandated that the definition of the word wage has been given, and wherein it has been mandated that the basic salary will be 50% of the total cost of salaries over there. So, you know, it is there available on the government side. So somebody who wants to really know so please go ahead. I will say every compensation person should understand what are these wage code bills are. Go ahead. There is there on government website what is the changes that has happened from the previous to now. Still most of the places it is not 100% implemented. But at least this one is something that companies have taken up now and started implementing whenever they are doing a salary revision and all, because that's the easiest, you know, option for them to implement it. But I think still it has been pushed for an actual implementation, and it will maybe take a couple of more months and all. So as I think I've been tracking it from the last year. Every time we are saying it will come from 1st of April or 1st of July and all. But most of the time, whenever we have done a compensation change or salary changes, we have ensured that it becomes 50%, just to be on the safer side.
Sure. Thanks, Vineet, and thanks, Suchandra. That really helps. And also, dear participants, we are going to end the session now. But before that, if any of your questions are unanswered, please don't be disappointed. You can definitely write back to us. There are various means to it. One is the greytHR community. You can post your questions here, and we will get back to you with the answers. Also, you can write back to us on the given mail ID here, that is rakigautam@greytHR.com. So on this note, we are coming to end of the discussion. And once again, I would like to thank Ms. Suchandra and Mr. Vineet for this session. You have certainly given us a lot of insights on designing a successful compensation strategy for a future-ready workforce. And also thank you for the attendees as well who has joined us today and for making this session successful. If you have any more questions, please feel free to write back to us on the mail ID that you can see on the screen, and we will definitely get back to you with the responses. So we will see you all in the next session again with another interesting topic of discussion. Till then, have a great time. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
it's
you.
wonderful having a connection with all of you, and we'll stay in touch. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, Rashmi. Thanks, Vineet.
Bye. Bye.